My name is Annika Mather. I'm 17 years old and I got a bone marrow transplant this February.
Hi, I'm Gayatri, Anika's mom.
I am Ashish, Anika's dad.
How did you feel when you heard your diagnosis? What did having aplastic anemia mean to you?
When I first heard that I had aplastic anemia, I think I didn't take it too seriously because I thought it would be like regular anemia. I didn't realize how bad it was. I thought I would just have to take some supplements. So I was fairly surprised when I realized that I would have to be in the hospital for a long time.
Okay, so in regards to your treatment, what were your early expectations for your treatment journey like?
I thought that initially I wasn't going to get a bone marrow transplant. I was going to get something called immunosuppressive therapy. And my expectations were that I would just get it and be in the hospital for about 1 or 2 weeks and then be able to go home. But I ended up staying there for 4 or 5 months because things went wrong.
How did your family take the news of the diagnosis and how did their reaction affect you?
So it was a little shocking to start with because we thought she had a very healthy lifestyle and we had done everything right. And the first question was that, what did we do something wrong in her diet or in her upbringing or in her exposure? Because they said, was she exposed to chemicals? So you always wonder what could have been done differently. But yes, it was very shocking, and especially because we were worried that she's going to her senior year and it's going to impact her, and we did not want her to get impacted, not because of anything else, just mentally, that okay, I'm not being able to do things with my friends, that I won't be able to graduate with my friends. That was what I was thinking, that she can deal with the physical part, but the emotional part is harder.
So did you ever feel frustrated or hopeless after the failed treatments and before finding your match? I know that this can be a very frustrating process. So did you ever feel all those feelings?
I think after my first treatment didn't work, I was surprised and I was frustrated that it didn't work because after all the complications which came with it, I thought this has to work. I don't want to go through a bone marrow transplant, or I don't want to do a second round of like some other treatment. And I don't, I want to be okay just with this first treatment. But yes, I was quite frustrated.
So when you finally did find that suitable donor, what was that process like and what was your reaction?
I think before I started my first treatment, there was a possibility that I could have gotten a bone marrow transplant. So we knew that I had a donor, and that was always in the back of our minds, that I have a donor just in case this first treatment doesn't work. But that was also a very good feeling. I felt like it was an assured thing that I would be okay if this treatment didn't work, that I would have a donor, that I had a backup.
And at that time, we knew that there was a donor on the registry, but they did caution that there are a lot of donors who are on the registry, but that doesn't mean that you have a guarantee that that person is still available. So that person might have been on the registry for years, and they wouldn't even know that that person is available and is still in a healthy condition to be able to donate. So doctor said that the second donor actually had backed out. So there was only one donor on the registry at that point.
So how would you convey the importance of diversifying the registry in terms of having matches available for ethnic patients?
Well, one example is myself. I found a match who was one match in over like 37 million donors in the world's registry. I'm Indian, and it's hard for me to find a match. So I think the more of like a minority group you are, the harder it is for you. And especially in countries besides like the US and some countries in Europe, it's not free to be a donor. So I think people in America and in Europe who are minorities, need to understand that people in other countries can not sign up because they may not be able to afford it, or it's just something that they're not willing to spend that money on or can't spend that money on. So I think if they know that they can be that minority who can easily access this free thing, that they should be the one who does it. and signs up.
And our final question is going to be, what messages do you have to people who are thinking about joining the registry?
Yeah, my thought is that we have to, of course, create awareness and then to remove the fear factor. A lot of people that we encountered during the drives, especially women, and it's not the younger women, it's the women who are like the newly married, or the ones who are probably going to have children in the future. They were very, very apprehensive. They did not want to even swab because they did not want to jeopardize anything with their health. They thought that this was a huge health issue, whereas the men were very forthcoming. So I feel that they have to be better informed that, okay, it's like, it's more than giving blood, but it's not going to affect you otherwise. I don't know what are the implications, but I just felt that the Indian community, we are very giving, but we are also sometimes very closed about these things because we are scared. And once we have the information, then there's no problem.
Again, this is a once in a lifetime chance, and you could save somebody else's life. And I think that's really, I would think that's a great thing. If I had the chance to donate, I would do it without question. So I think that it's definitely something to think about, if you're not sure whether you should donate, just know that it is a small procedure. It does take some time to recover, but it doesn't have a big impact on your health to extract your bone marrow to give to give to somebody else. And I think it's something that you will remember and you will feel good about, helping somebody else.